Good evening. Welcome again to our program, Women to Women. I'm Carol Paz, your hostess, and we have a very special lady that's actually going to be a two-parter. So before we get to Shala Fedai, that I will introduce to you in just a moment, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Carpa Nevada LLC, importer of fine Portuguese olive oils, international teas, and balsamic vinegar, as well as Vila Basque Deli and Cafe, home of Pete's famous Basque chorizo. We thank you so much for joining us tonight. And let's turn right now our attention to Shala. Shala, thank you so much for being here. It's a joy to have you. We've spoken a little bit, but we're getting to know each other even more tonight. So thank you.
Thank you, Carol. It's a pleasure.
You know, Shala is one of these exceptional guests when it comes to women. And each and every guest is special in this program, and they're here for a number of reasons. But Shala's story is one not only that I'm hoping our audience can really get involved with, it's one that I can identify with. And Shala, we're just going to let you tell us who you are, where you were born, and as a child growing up in this very special culture, in this very special family, what was it like? Where are you from, Shala?
Well, I'm from Iran. I was born in Iran, and I came to the United States in 1978, and I have not been back ever since. I grew up in a large family.
Now, when you say large, how many, do you mean extended family, or do you mean actual brothers and sisters?
Actually, brothers and sisters.
How many?
I have 4 sisters and 4 brothers, and I had one brother that he died on age of 4.
Okay, yeah, so that is a large family and a wonderful size to, you have your instant playmates right with you.
Yes.
Okay, now, where in Iran were you born? Were you born in Shiraz or Isfahan, Tehran?
No, I was born in Masjid Suleiman. It's south of Iran, and it's bordered with Iraq.
Okay.
Yes, and Ahwaz. So.
And as you were growing up, what were some of the things as children that you were taught, values that you had? You grew up in an Islamic society.
Yes.
Okay, your family was Islamic, as most families in the Middle East are. There are some Christians and there are some Jews, but by and large, it's Islamic. So with your brothers and sisters, what were the things that your parents wanted you to learn?
Actually, Carol, let me explain to you that I was in a family that my mother was Muslim and my mother was Christian.
Your mother was Muslim?
Yes.
And your father was Christian?
Yes, ma'am.
That's, wow.
Yes.
Yes.
And of course, my mother had a strong personality. She was a hardworking and very dominant. And my father was Christian, and even though he never practiced his religion, but he never hesitated to let us know, or anybody, that he was Christian.
Wonderful.
Muslim was dominated in our home, but we also went to church and practiced some of that.
Did you go to mosque as well as to a Christian church?
Oh, absolutely. We went to mosque, say 95%, then we went to church or some of the celebration Christianity.
Yes.
Just to see, not actually to practice, but just to see.
To be a part of.
To be a part of.
Okay. And what would those celebrations have been in both religions? For example, I'm familiar with the Muslim holy days and the festival days. So what did you practice as a Muslim in the home? Did you practice Nowruz, the New Year?
Well, Carol, I have to explain to you that Nowruz or New Year's, it's not Islamic culture.
Right.
It's not a part of Islamic culture. It's a Persian culture.
Yes.
And anybody can practice it. But personally, I love Nowruz, and I still practice it. And
I do too.
Yes. And yes, we practice it and we celebrate it, Nowruz, Charsham Suri, and as well as the birth of Christ. I remember my mother had a little, maybe 3 feet tall plastic Christmas tree that every year she took out and she lighted up, and we had Christmas.
Okay, so you really grew up in a dual household in terms of faith.
Yes.
Even though Islam was the dominant one, but still Christianity was in there.
It was in there, but we know Jesus Christ just a prophet.
Okay.
We didn't know anything about Holy Spirit, and we didn't learn anything more than he was a good man and a prophet.
Now, coming along with brothers and sisters, did your family travel? Were you out of Iran on certain trips? Did you travel around to the various cities? Because there's so much history.
Yes. My family, I was born in upper middle class, and my parents, they're wealthy. They were wealthy. We had an opportunity to travel every summer. They had some homes and land in the upper side of Iran that we traveled.
Right.
It took a 2 months vacation. And we never traveled outside country together. But
why is that, do you suppose?
That we never
Went
traveled?
outside of the country.
Because it just never did come.
Just was not a tradition in the family.
It wasn't, no. Even though my brother was outside country, he went to university in the United States, but it just, I guess it wasn't important at the time.
Okay. And this brings me to the question, because I know when I lived there, education was very important to Persian families for their children. Was it important for both the boys and the girls in your family to be educated?
Absolutely.
How did you know that?
Because we were forced to learn. Yes, we were forced to learn, and we were forced to come home with good grades. It was very important.
Expectations were very high.
Very high, yes.
What were you interested in terms of academics or school as a young girl?
Oh my goodness. As a young girl, I used to love to read and write, and I used to actually write my own poems and short stories. I was able to get them published in a paper, and I had them read, or they were read on radio a few times. I love to read classic poems, Persian poems, and mystics and philosophy, politics. I was a reader, and I loved my quiet time, and I loved to read and write.
And we would call that being very precocious in this culture, okay? Early reader, and a type of reading that requires sensitivity, lots of thought.
Yes.
And to immerse yourself in poetry, and to be able to write it, and to have it published as well as produced, to be written on radio or television, is extremely rare, extremely rare. So as you're growing up and you are being educated in this family, how do you come? There must have been kind of as you age, as you mature, did you ask your father a lot of questions about Christianity? Did you ask your mother a lot of questions about Islam? Was there any kind of a separation or a diversion there, a confusion?
Well, there was confusion in my own personal life. I remember that just the type of personality that I was. I used to go to bed early, and I woke up middle of the night. I pick up my dulcimer. It's a Persian instrument. I go to my mother's kitchen and play and write poetry.
In the middle of the night?
In the middle of the night. And I loved nights, and I loved especially the rainy nights. I used to go watch the rain as they're coming down. I used to watch the asphalt as the rain hits the asphalt and make the bubble. I used to watch the bubble.
Splash,
No, it falls on themselves.
Okay.
And I used to look at the bubbles, and I see that thousands of them on the asphalt. And I used to see that they struggle to stand up and rise, but it seems like they didn't want to. They never could stand up and hold still, and but they didn't want to stop. And this tribulation keep going on till rain stopped. And I looked at that. I was fascinated by that, and I looked at it. And then after the rain stopped, there is a peace, and that's when I used to think there might be something greater than that. I think I was relating those bubbles to the society, to the struggles of society, and I was a search of spiritual guidance, a spiritual higher power, which I felt I was lost.
You knew there was something else,
and
you were searching, looking.
I could not find it in Islam faith, and even though Islam, as I said, it was dominant in our family, there was no choice but to practice, do the prayers, do the namaz, do the fasting. But I knew there was something missing that I just couldn't find it in Islam faith.
Okay. So you attended a university within Iran?
No. I was a high school graduate. And
when did you leave Iran? What circumstances did you leave under?
Well, not very pretty. It was just...
I looked at her pretty ugly circumstances too, but maybe yours were different than mine. How did you leave?
Well, the revolution had started in our country
Yes.
around 1977. And I was in a high school, and uprising started in university, then it went to the high schools. And I think I was just a perfect candidate to get involved, and with my peers, with my friends. And I really don't believe that when I got involved with the revolution and I did the uprising that we wanted to change the government. We were just a young 17 or 18 years old kids that we just wanted to be heard. Mm-hmm. And
what were the things that you wanted the Shah and his government to hear? I remember those days too.
In my case, I was doing a lot of reading. I was hoping they allow us to do a lot of, to have more freedom to read political books. And it was really hard to understand which one it was political, which was against the government, or it was just political that just a philosophy. We had a hard time to understand.
Okay, let me ask you this. So was there a curtailment? Was there more or less a quarantine of reading material within your high schools, within the universities? You wanted more choice of reading.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes. And actually, after I left the country, my parents told me that they buried all my books because they felt they after Islamic, which was worse than that, they didn't want those books to be exposed. But anyway, the revolution got heated, and authority from the government were getting involved, and every day we heard somebody was getting killed, and there was an explosion somewhere. So my parents wanted us, meaning my sister and I, to leave the country and come to the United States to study. And our plan was to come to the United States and get our education. Hopefully by then everything was calm and we go back, do what we had to do.
Return to the country.
Yes.
And that was essentially in 1979 when I went to Germany with our son. The plan was to come back.
Yes.
And we had a home, we had everything there. But as we'll find out as we talk in the second half of the program, not all plans laid by us work out.
Yeah.
Don't go away, we will be right back with Shala.
Are you looking for a healthier lifestyle? A more nutritious diet? Do you care about quality? If your answer is yes, or if you are just curious, come into Villa Basque Deli and Cafe right here in Carson City, Nevada. Discover fine Portuguese extra virgin olive oils, vintage balsamic vinegars, and a wide assortment of international health teas provided by distributor Carpa Nevada LLC. In addition to these terrific items, Villa Basque is also the home of Pete's famous Basque chorizo, handmade on the premises from Pete's secret family recipe. Satisfy your culinary curiosities. Don't delay.
When a disaster strikes our region, will you be ready? Learn about sheltering in place. Since each emergency is different, make sure you plan for alternate routes away from your neighborhood. Plan meeting places and long-distance phone numbers if you are separated. Assemble food, water, medicines for at least 3 days, and a portable radio to stay informed. Remember, make a plan, assemble a kit, stay informed, be ready. For more information, contact your local emergency manager.
It's impossible to replace anybody that you love. She was my great role model, my Grammy Keaton. It was pretty much of a shock for us when she got colon cancer. None of us were prepared for that. Colorectal cancer is the second leading cancer killer of men and women over the age of 50. Just get screened, okay? If I can do it, you can do it, okay?
How was school today?
Cool, we learned what to do in case there's an emergency.
Oh, will you show me?
Yeah, and if there is an earthquake, then you get under your desk, duck, cover, and hold. And when the shaking stops,
we evacuate the school just like a fire drill.
I'm glad you both know what to do in case of an emergency, but I'd still be worried.
You're supposed to check the phone, radio, or TV, and they'll tell you what to do.
Make a plan.
Assemble a kit.
Stay informed.
And be ready.
Hi, and welcome back to the second half of our show on Women to Women. We're with Shala Fedai, and Shala is sharing with us, as a young Iranian woman growing up in a very large family close to the Iraqi border, what times were like in specific during the Iranian Revolution that really began to take momentum during 1977, 1978. And we were in the same country at the same time, did not know each other, living in separate locations. But I understand what she's saying. And Shala, coming back to getting a plan, were your parents successful in getting you out of the country during this time for an education in the United States? How did that come about?
That was easy because there was uprising and revolution inside the country, but Shah was still inside the country,
yes,
so it was easy for us.
And the Shah being the king of Iran.
Yes.
Shah.
Yes, and it was easy to get a passport and visa. We left easy. And,
okay. Now, sometimes in Iranian culture, the difficulty or the ease with which you obtain things is kind of known as party bazi. And she's laughing because it means connections, okay? You have to have connections. And apparently, the Fedai family had some connections, okay, to get out, just like the Alipur and the Khosrow Shahis did. So, okay, you leave Iran. Where do you go? In specific, where in the United States do you come to?
Well, we came to New York. And we stayed there a couple days, I believe, as I remember. Excuse me. Then we flew to Oklahoma City, and we stayed with the friends. Then we got our own place, and I went to University of Nazarene in Oklahoma City. It's
all right,
a Christian
now, two
college.
questions come to mind. First of all, Persians normally travel en masse, meaning they travel with family.
Yes.
And the cooking by the mother or by the family is done in the new apartment or the new home abode. Mm-hmm. And the family remains very much intact, culturally, with the language, with the cooking, with the customs. And I always liked that. Okay, I always liked that. I felt very comfortable with it. Now, why Oklahoma?
Because we had friends
okay.
in Oklahoma City. And when you live in a country, you have to have acceptance from the university. And we had acceptance from university in Oklahoma City. Not necessarily Christian college, or it was a college at the time, became university years later. But
so it was a small college to begin with, and then it grew and it became an accredited state university?
Yeah, it wasn't a small college. It was a 4-year college.
Okay.
It was one of the 4 Christian college in
Oklahoma.
In the whole country.
In the whole country?
Yes, very expensive.
Yes.
and a good college. And
okay.
it became university actually, I believe it was after 1985.
Okay. So let me ask this question then. If you come into a major university in Oklahoma City and it is a private Christian school at the time, did that feed this 5% Christianity in your spirit, or did it take a while? Was there any, what were some of the benefits of coming where you came in Oklahoma? How did you benefit from that?
Benefit from the Christian college?
Yes.
Well, we liked the traditions. We had to go to church twice a week. And it seems like people were different. They were more traditional, and it was like my family. Like I said earlier, even though we were in a Muslim family, but we were well grounded and we were traditional.
Yes.
So no matter where we went, we liked traditions. So, but that's the first things that I saw in Christian college, the warmth, the kindness of people. It was like a big family, yes. So I think I fit in right away. But as far as language, it was difficult. English is really hard to master. So
why is that? I have a brother-in-law, a German brother-in-law, who said, and he speaks, Turkish and Farsi and German very well. But he said when it comes to English, Carol, it's like having a lot of hot mashed potatoes in your mouth, all the vowel sounds. It's more like going, well, I don't know. And I said, no, that sounds like a cat fight. That's not English. Why? My husbands have said, English is a hard language to master. Why is that?
Well, it was hard in my case.
It was hard in my cases too.
Because, as a young girl, I used to read a lot. And when we landing in Oklahoma City, I did not know that every state have their own pretty much vocabulary and custom and a language. So if I learn in a book, let me have a glass of water.
Yes.
They were saying, water. I had to, what are you talking about? It was hard. I think the slangs and
we have a lot of
culture
slang. Yes,
was different. And I think I remember that it was so difficult that not only I went through cultural shock, I pretty much lost my memory for 3 months. And that's when I met with my Dr. Forrest Ladd, my psychology professor.
Okay.
He took a liking on me, and he was an older gentleman. I used to get together with him, and he's the one introduced me to Jesus Christ personally.
He mentored.
Yes.
Okay.
And he became my spiritual father or stepfather.
In this country.
And, yes, and he helped me to understand the culture, and
I can identify with what you're saying. My first husband, Farouk, went to Ohio State. At that time, 57,000 students on campus. It's a city unto itself.
Yes.
And he did not speak English. And he had a complete nervous breakdown. Okay, he was in mathematics, he was in physics, and there is a universal language with math because of the numbers.
Yes.
However, in philosophy, in English, in history, that's a whole different matter of vocabulary and familiarity with names and dates, events, etc. And he didn't have it. And there was an Ohio State older woman, who was in charge of foreign students, who did exactly what Dr. Ladd did for you, mentored him back into a healthy perspective, because he was feeling, I think much like you, there's a sense of abandonment of the culture because you can't communicate yet.
No.
So he was a tremendous influence in your life, Dr. Ladd. All right, once you had someone to speak to, what about your family back in the apartment? How did they learn English with you, or didn't they?
Well, it was my sister,
Okay.
and she was in this school with me, and we practiced as much as we could. But
What do you do when you don't know English and you go home to your family's abode, or you're on student campus? Who do you look at? Who do you watch? What do you listen to learn English?
for me, I used to go to grocery stores. I used to look
okay.
at the apple, then I look at the writing apple, then I match them. This is apple. And that was a great way of learning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Get right out in the
Yes.
culture, right out
Yes.
among the people. What about television? Did that help at all, or was that just more confusion?
No, television was great help. When I was in Iran, I hardly watched television or listen to music. Here in the United States, I was watching soap opera.
Okay.
And when I was asked, why are you watching soap opera? These are not good. I was like, I just want to learn a language.
Yes.
That was great influence.
Yes, and the same was true for me in learning Farsi. I watched a lot of Sesame Street.
Sesame Street.
And in Germany, Sesamstraße to learn German. Okay, so now you're in the United States, you're in college. What are you majoring in?
Psychology.
Psychology.
Yes.
Was that also the influence of Dr. Ladd, do you think?
I was always interested when I was in Iran, and I read books.
Okay.
But after meeting Dr. Forrest Ladd, I thought, well, I'm going crazy. I need to fix myself first. So psychology seems it was the right choice.
Now, did you graduate in psychology?
I did not graduate. I picked up my education 20 years later.
20 years
Yes.
later. So what happened? This hiatus, where did you go? You didn't finish with Oklahoma and the education there. What happened?
Well, I decided to marry a royal family from Jordan. Yes.
Royal family member from Jordan.
Yes.
Amman, Jordan?
Yes. And he was in Oklahoma City, and we met, and I married him. And it wasn't a good
match.
It wasn't a good match. And
That means that you had to learn Arabic. Or did you already know it?
I already knew Arabic because of Islam influence.
Okay.
But I learned even more when I was with him. But it got to the point beating up and abuse was too much. So I packed my suitcase with 100 pair of shoes and I left.
Imelda Marcos II.
Yes. Yes, I know about her.
All right, so gracious. You met a handsome royal member of the Jordanian family.
Yes.
You married. Did you go back to Jordan to live?
No.
You stayed here in the United States.
I stayed in the United States. He left. He had planned to take me to Jordan.
Of course. And it was an abusive marriage.
Very abusive, yes.
May I ask you, was it more than verbally abusive?
Oh my goodness. You get beat up so bad that you can't even walk. I remember the night of our marriage. This is pretty personal, but I can share with you. I don't complain about my pain, but as long as you're willing to listen, I share. I woke up 2 days later after getting beat up in the night of my wedding because the night of my wedding, I decided I didn't want to be with him. And one of the ladies from church called. And it was so bad when I crawled to the telephone to pick up the telephone. She thought I was so drunk of partying, but I was beat up for 2 days. I was sleeping for 2 days. Yeah.
Were you in a coma?
Maybe I was.
Maybe you were.
Yes.
Where was your family during all this?
My family.
Did they know?
No, you don't talk about these things. You know, they always wish you well. And
Yes.
when you tell them you marry someone so prestigious, and they just feel like everything's so great. I didn't let them know. I actually lost my contact with my own family for about 10 years after that. Because I was too embarrassed to let them know that maybe I failed the marriage.
Yes. Let me ask you this, Shala. Quite often in Middle Eastern marriages, the man is quite a bit older than the bride. Was that true in your case or not?
By about 6 years older.
Okay, so that's really not a huge age difference. Okay, sometimes there's 18 years, 20 years.
Yes.
But this was a trap that you were in.
Yes.
And you had to make some very important decisions with safety, a major consideration here, your safety. And you had to make some decisions that go against tradition of the Middle East.
Exactly, yes.
Yes. And those decisions we are going to save until the next show. Don't miss this. Shala has been open, she's been honest, and as we American women know, we are often in abusive marriages or abusive relationships, and we are afraid to get out because tradition holds us back, the fear of change holds us back, the fear of not knowing what's going to happen to us if we say anything. And Shala has faced this. She will be back with us on the next show. Thank you, Shala, so much. I can't wait to keep going. Okay.
Welcome.
Good night, everyone. Have a good evening, and we'll see you next week with a brand new show with Shala. Take care.